It's impossible to go a day without hearing it. Narcissism, narcissist, narcissistic. It has acquired a label, a strategy for assault, self-defense, and differentiation. Back in the day, we used terms from bygone eras like communist, fascist, or atheist to describe people. Now it's narcissism, those manipulative, self-centered, selfish people. Welcome to complexity, then. It is unacceptable to diagnose someone with a mental illness when you are not a professional. When you are a professional but the individual is not your patient, it is even worse. Most people who are self-centered, endearing, cunning, and vengeful can get by with a hole. Now that we have established this, let's explore the causes of challenging people who exhibit narcissistic behaviors while working in a formal office setting. To be clear, there is no doubt that there are people in the general population who exhibit these characteristics, including self-importance, a lack of empathy, the use of others as pawns, grandiosity, and a tendency to lash out violently when criticized. These characteristics are all held by an inflated ego that conceals the instability of a fragile self-esteem. This discussion is important. The value of labels as heuristics. Many people contain elements of narcissism. That is human, not psychological. But if someone regularly behaves in this manner year after year, it may be a sign of a psychological condition called narcissistic personality disorder. What is the origin of these characteristics and this disorder? How does narcissism develop in people? In actuality, nobody is truly aware. Let's start with the importance of labels as heuristics. In medicine, bodily problems are referred to as diagnosis. By examination, tests, and history, we may all concur that someone has a shattered humerus. More judgment is involved in a psychiatric diagnosis. There is no X-ray for NPD, and even our extensive evaluations frequently contain subjectivity. There isn't a narcissistic region in the brain, and the only concrete evidence is psychological testing, which is useful, and a history that shows a trail of hurt and broken relationships, protected by an entitlement that places the responsibility for everything else save one's own behavior. Therefore, the diagnosis is present. It is simply more inconsistent and unsteady than what is generally observed in the medical industry. The narcissistic origins. Let's now look at the bigger picture. Potential risk factors for developing narcissistic personality disorder include genetics, developmental factors, and occasionally traumatic experiences. For instance, recent study supports the notion that certain kids are genetically predisposed to being more conceited and entitled than others. However, grandiosity and entitlement tendencies may not always result in NPD. Some people who are innately arrogant and entitled end up being strong leaders, parents, members of the clergy, doctors, and other professions. One could contend that these traits, when applied in a socially beneficial way, really assist the group from an evolutionary perspective. They therefore have an adaptive value that permeates the gene pool. Definitely something to ponder. These children can learn to care for others and to absorb right and evil from their parents, as can all children. However, it is not a huge leap to think that some genetically based tendencies, which may have been mobilized for good, instead find expression in the desperation we can observe in narcissists when left unchecked by inadequate parenting. Parenting matters. Let's now talk about a challenging aspect of a developing child. The human brain contains 80 billion neurons. That explains the vastly diverse ways people process facts, emotions, sights, sounds, and interpersonal situations. Some of us have more accurate world intuition than others. Some of us attach with ease and trust, while others find it difficult to perceive the goodwill or intentions of others, including one's parents, for a variety of reasons. One's self-esteem may be damaged, and one's ability to empathize with others may be impeded if we are unable to internalize a sense of safety, whether it be due to our innate anxiety, inability to interpret the world, chaotic upbringing, or being put under pressure by a controlling parent. Think of a disorderly house. Every guy is out for himself. Think about an oppressive house. Additionally, it's every man for themselves. Imagine a terrifying house. It is not difficult to envisage a psychological outcome of a self-preoccupied attitude of self-protection. A key characteristic of narcissism is the sense that you must succeed at all costs, and that you are on your own. This sense is the result of a wholly distinct multifactorial mixture that now also includes parenting, genetics, trauma, and the previously mentioned neurodevelopmental factor. Once more, the issue of the shattered humerus is much simpler to comprehend. To be clear, not all children who grow up in chaotic, oppressive, or traumatic circumstances are at risk of developing narcissism. Other options for coping with these events include maturing into someone more like the majority of people on the earth who are not narcissistic. The mystery surrounding pathological narcissism as a developmental phenomenon lies in the confluence of neurodevelopment, genetics, parenting, and psychological difficulties that can be resolved in psychotherapy after the fact, but are challenging to anticipate in advance for any given individual. The issue of social reinforcement in narcissism is the last one. Achievement and failure. Early in life, narcissists frequently find success. They frequently have charisma, natural talent, attractiveness, verbal virtuosity, parental favor, or particularly strong social, academic, or athletic abilities. A young person's sense of entitlement may be augmented by the capacity to manipulate others due to appearance, charisma, or talent. As a result, these children can miss out on the benefits of typical dissatisfaction and the constructive, growth-promoting benefits of mild disappointment. If anything, the budding narcissist may be more prone to emotional fragility when things don't go his or her way as a result of all this achievement. Conclusion. We can essentially only hypothesize about how any given person ends up battling with narcissistic personality disorder. Although it is not something that can be predicted in advance, it is frequently rather easy to tease out in treatment. Despite this, the majority of specialists in the field concur that developmental variables, as well as effectiveness in narcissistic methods like manipulating others, venting frustration on them, and maintaining a brittle self-esteem through lofty ideals and entitlement, have a significant influence. Some narcissistic people achieve great positions in society, frequently at the expense of hurting their friends, spouses, members of their congregation, voters, and family. These figures have burned every sentient entity that is still alive. We are bone deep aware of it. However, many people who try to win at all costs fail, hurting the wrong person, being caught up in a plot, or ending up alone in a world of burnt earth. Returning to the narcissist playbook, failure typically results in rage and resentment toward other people and the world. The good news is that if a failing narcissist is ready to undergo protracted but fruitful counseling, they may become receptive to the idea of change. These people must learn something truly new in order to benefit from such therapy. They must examine their insecurities, own the ways in which they hurt the people they love and compromise their stated morals, and find a way to love themselves not through accomplishment but rather as flawed beings who aspire to become better individuals. According to the narrative, this marks the peculiar but upbeat developmental conclusion of the narcissistic trip. People do seek treatment and undergo substantial transformation. Because they are too proud to look within or to trust themselves, these burdened people tend to blame others more frequently, and the cycle continues. Even for someone dealing with narcissistic personality disorder, misery is suffering. I sincerely hope and pray that more of these people receive the assistance they require. They didn't intend to get here, after all.